In 2,000 years of Chinese history, there's a type of person whose ending looks remarkably the same. They did not fail because they lacked ability. They failed because they were too right, too fast, and too visible too soon. Many people were destroyed by their mistakes, but some were destroyed precisely by being correct. There's an old Chinese saying, "The rafter that sticks out rots first." It sounds like advice to stay humble, but placed inside history, it is not moral advice. It is a structural pattern verified again and again. The problem was never about standing out. It was about when to stand out and how. In the Western Han Dynasty, an official named Chao Cuo worked his way into the center of power through sheer competence. He was not a founding hero. He was not a regional warlord. He was a policy mind who identified a real problem. The regional kings held too much power and would eventually threaten the central government. So he proposed stripping them of their authority. Was his direction correct? Judging by what happened later, completely. But he pushed too hard, too fast. A set of contradictions that needed to be managed gradually. Phase by phase, he shoved on the table all at once, triggering every vested interest in the empire simultaneously. The rebellion of the 7 states erupted. Once the rebellion broke out, the court faced a practical choice: hold the policy or stabilize the situation first. The debate in the capital did not last long. Chao Cuo was taken from his home, still wearing his court robes, and executed in the Eastern Market. He did not fail because his direction was wrong. He failed because he placed himself at the very front of the conflict with no buffer behind him. He was no longer the man solving the problem. He had become the problem itself. The same logic reappeared during the Three Kingdoms period. Yang Xiu was extraordinarily talented, but his fatal flaw was a need for everyone to know it. Serving under Cao Cao, he repeatedly anticipated his commander's intentions before they were spoken. In the famous chicken rib incident, Cao Cao issued the words "chicken rib" as the knight's military password. No one understood, but Yang Xiu was already packing his bags. When others asked why, he said, "Chicken ribs, too tasteless to eat, too wasteful to throw away. The commander is going to retreat." Word spread through the camp. Unrest followed. From the perspective of ability, this was almost a strength, but in the logic of power, it was a danger signal. Not only understanding the superior's mind, but explaining it for him, even acting on it before he gave the order. Many people believe that proving yourself early makes you safer. But inside a power structure, being understood too early means being defined too early. And once defined, the room to maneuver disappears. Yang Xiu was executed on the surface charge of disrupting military morale. The real reason was that he had turned his intelligence into a public performance. And in the presence of power, performance itself is overstepping. The case of Lan Yu in the early Ming dynasty was even more striking. He rose from humble origins through battlefield achievements, climbing fast. The problem was not how fast he rose, but that he began losing restraint on the way up, violating court protocol, acted with arrogance, even building his own network of loyalists. In the eyes of Zhu Yuanzhang, the signal was unmistakable. This man was not only powerful, he was becoming uncontrollable. But the critical factor was timing. He was not expanding from a position of security. He was expanding before he had earned the right to bear the consequences of expansion. The Lan Yu case erupted. He was executed, and the purge swept up over 10,000 people. His rise was not the natural result of a secured position. It was premature overflow during the climb itself. There was also a more subtle form of standing out, one that occurred inside the bureaucratic system itself. Throughout the Ming and Qing dynasties, a certain type of young official would appear, freshly awarded the Jinshi degree, barely into their career, yet already filing aggressive memorials attacking powerful ministers, using sharp language and striking moral poses, trying to build a reputation through ideological confrontation. Were they wrong? Not necessarily. But in a system that valued seniority and balance above all else, they had no position, yet were already using a language that only position could justify. The system does not protect a person simply for being correct. The outcomes were remarkably consistent. transferred to provinces, demoted, drawn into factional warfare, unable to recover for years. Their problem was not their stance. It was their timing. They tried to trade correctness for position, but what the system valued was never correctness. It was controllability. There was yet another form, rising by borrowing someone else's power. When Zhang Juzheng was alive, he dominated the entire court. But what deserves more attention is what happened around him in his later years. His family and associates expanded rapidly, seizing land, accumulating wealth, building networks. This kind of rise was not built on personal ability. It was built entirely on attachment to one man. Rising on borrowed power is not really rising. It is premature exposure. The moment Zhang Juzheng died, the protection vanished and the reckoning arrived. When the fulcrum disappears, those strapped to it fall faster than anyone. Place all of these people side by side, and a common pattern emerges. None of them were at the very top. None of them were complete failures. Most of them were in a phase of active ascent. But it was precisely during this phase that they all did the same thing. They allowed themselves to become impossible to ignore too soon. And in the political environment of Chinese history, being impossible to ignore was itself a form of risk. The system did not necessarily strike the strongest. It prioritized the most unstable. And those who rose too quickly tended to share three characteristics. They disrupted the rhythm, they broke the balance, and they became unpredictable. Together, these three traits were enough to make a person the first to be dealt with. This logic did not belong only to emperors and generals. In any environment where power is highly concentrated and the rules are not fully transparent, the same selection mechanism operates. The first person to be noticed is often the first person to be consumed. So what the rafter that sticks out rots first truly means is not that one cannot be exceptional. It means that when a person does not yet have sufficient position, resources, or protection, the moment their excellence becomes visible, it transforms from an advantage into a risk. Many people believe that danger comes from failure. But in this system, more often than not, danger arrives the moment a person begins to matter. Ability determines how far someone can go. But what determines whether they ever get there is whether they learn to stand firm before they were seen.